Welcome back, Focus Learners. Today, we are stepping into what is basically a masterclass. We're going to look at how the incredibly rigid, almost mathematical rules of Sanskrit grammar actually build the foundation for one of the most deeply emotional stories in classical literature. We're unpacking the very first scene of Janani Tulyavatsala. But, instead of just reading the story, we're going to reverse engineer it. We are going to look at the exact grammatical nuts and bolts, the literal equations of the language that the author used to make us feel the intense heartbreak of a mother cow.
Section 1. The Tale of Surabhi. The source text. So picture this. It's a rather tragic scene. A farmer is out plowing his field, but one of his two oxen is just incredibly weak. The farmer pushes this struggling animal way too hard, and the exhausted ox collapses right there in the dirt. Witnessing this cruelty, Surabhi, the divine mother of all cows, begins to literally weep from the heavens. Seeing her tears, the lord of the gods, Indra, approaches her and asks why she's crying.
She delivers this heartbreaking plea. I grieve for my son, therefore I cry. On one side, we have the immense, localized suffering of the weak ox, who is just forced way beyond his physical limits. On the flip side, we have Indra's divine confusion. He essentially asks Surabhi, wait, you have thousands of sons. Why do you have such intense affection for this particular one? Surabhi's answer to this isn't just in what she says, but in the actual linguistic structure of the scene itself.
When Indra asks her why she's crying, she basically responds, "It is true I have many children, but I feel a special pain for this weak one." Now, listen to how her breathless, overlapping plea is physically fused together by the grammar itself. She isn't taking neat, polite pauses between her words. She's rushing, completely driven by maternal anxiety.
Section 2. Defining our grammar categories. The tools of the trade.
Let's see this in action. In the very first sentence, we encounter the word kashit, meaning a certain. Step 1, we identify the base words, which are ka and chit. Notice the two dots at the end of ka? Well, that's a visarga. Step 2 is applying the rule. When a visarga is followed by the ch sound, the visarga mathematically transforms into a sh sound. Step 3, we just combine them to get our final word, kashit. It is just flawless linguistic logic.
It's kind of mind-blowing. Look at the yan sandhi rule in the word pratyavochat, which means replied. Prati plus avochat merges the I and a to create this ya sound. Surabhi isn't just calmly responding, she is urgently replying. The exact same thing happens in Satswapi, merging u and a into a va. It physically speeds up the dialogue, mimicking the rapid, breathless flow of a real, intense conversation.
And the author keeps building this urgency throughout her dialogue with even more fusions. Bahuni and Apyatyani merge into Bahunapatyani using yan sandhi. Then santi and iti become santiti through dirgha sandhi. And sahaja and eva transform into sahajaiva via vridhi sandhi. The relentless use of these sound combinations ensures the text never ever drags. It just propels Indra and us as the audience straight into Surabhi's overwhelming distress.
So the crucial point is, if sandhi is how words blend, samas is how words combine. Compound words in Sanskrit are the ultimate tool for compressing complex relationships and grand titles into a single breath. Let's break down Indra's title, Trita Shatadipa. Step 1, Trisnam means three. Step 2, Dashranam means states. Step 3, Adipa means lord. So instead of using some clunky phrase, this Shashti Tapurusha compound compresses his supreme divine authority into a single rolling word. It immediately establishes the massive power dynamic in the room. And different types of samasas create entirely different meanings. We have the standard Shashti Tatpurusha in Putra Sahasram, which simply means thousands of sons. But I want you to contrast that with the Bahuvrihi compound, Kripa Hridaya. A Bahuvrihi doesn't just jam words together, it points to a third, entirely new entity. It transforms the concepts of mercy and heart into a vivid description of Surabhi's entire emotional state, one whose very heart is moist with mercy.
Let's move on and see how this builds a beautiful Shashti Tapurusha Samas utilizing our step-by-step logic. We start with two separate ideas, kshetrasya meaning of the field and karshanam meaning plowing. Step 2 is applying the rule. The Shashti Tapurusha actually allows us to completely drop the of the case ending, that sya sound. We just smash the core concepts together to get kshetra karshanam, field plowing. Simple, elegant, and highly efficient.
And this brilliantly illustrates the Dwanda Samas. Think about the long way to say, with two oxen. You literally have to say balivardachcha tabyam, an ox and an ox with them. I mean, that is incredibly clunky, right? Instead, the Dwanda Samas beautifully merges two of the exact same subjects into a single, specialized dual-form word, balivardabhyam.
Here are 3 critical Tatpurusha compounds from our text that really define the reality of the scene. Sharira Durbala, weak by body. Suradipa, Lord of the Gods. Swaputram, one's own son. Notice how these compounds perfectly encapsulate the massive power gap between the weak physical body of the ox, the divine authority of the questioning god Indra, and of course the deep maternal connection Surabhi feels for her own son.
Let's unpack the dense compounds used for the storm. Take Jalapaplava and Harshatirekana. Uncompounded, their literal definitions are Jalasya Upaplava, meaning a water disaster, and Harshasya Atirekana, meaning by excessive joy. By using Shashti Tatpurusha, the author drops those possessive case endings and just snaps the words together.
Let's check out a few more of these action-packed compounds. We've got Megaravaya, a Shashti Tatpurusha meaning by the roars of clouds. Then there's Krishanavamukha, a Panchami Tatpurusha describing the farmer who is turned away from plowing because of the sudden storm. And finally, Chandavatina, a Karmadarya compound meaning by the fierce wind. The crucial takeaway here is that by packing roaring clouds, fierce winds, and a farmer abandoning his plow into these tight, multi-layered compounds, the Sanskrit text dramatically accelerates the pace. It perfectly mimics a chaotic downpour where everything is happening all at once.
Let's unpack.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how vastly different suffixes create such diverse and specific vocabulary from basic roots. Take the raw root krud, which means to be angry. We add the kda suffix to get krugda, the physical state of being angry, which perfectly describes our cruel farmer. Or take the feminine top suffix, turning the root for ask into prushta, specifically denoting a female being asked. It's incredibly precise.
Let's look a little closer at that quita suffix again. The story tells us the weak ox fell in the field. The author uses the root pat, which signifies falling. By applying the quita suffix, which denotes a completed action in the past, pat becomes patit. It isn't just falling, it has fallen. The action is tragically complete. The heavy physical reality of the ox hitting the ground is permanently locked in by that one specific grammatical choice.
Suffixes also dictate states of being and possession, which is absolutely vital for characterizing our subjects. The matup suffix denotes possessing something. So bala, meaning strength, plus matup gives us balavan, someone who possesses strength. Conversely, the tal suffix forms abstract nouns. The root dina means miserable or weak. Add tal and you get dinata, the absolute state of weakness or poverty. These suffixes perfectly highlight the contrast between the power of the gods and the miserable state of the poor ox.
Look at the root sahaj, which means natural. Add the top suffix and it becomes sahaja, the feminine form of a natural, innate love. Then
Here's your first challenge. Think back to that fast, urgent dialogue of Indra we talked about earlier. How do you split the sandied word satswapi? What are the 2 original words, and what specific phonetic rule forced them together? Take a quick second to think about it. Got it? The answer is satsu plus api. Thanks to the Yansandi rule, the u at the end of satsu and the a at the beginning of api collide to form a va sound, giving us satswapi. Let's move to sha and see how this builds with our next grammatical challenge. Challenge number 2 focuses on those emotional modifiers we covered, the pratyayas. When Indra asks Surabhi a question, the text uses the word prishta. Can you recall the root word and the 2 specific suffixes that combine to show both the past tense and the feminine subject? Let's see if you remember. Okay, if you guessed the root prach combined with the past passive suffix kta and capped off with the feminine suffix top, you are absolutely correct. Congratulations! You just accurately decoded how a Sanskrit verb modifies itself to deeply embrace the female identity of our grieving mother's Surabhi. Ready for the final challenge? Let's look at compression one more time. We have the word kripa hridaya, which is used to describe Surabhi. Can you expand this beautiful compound back into its full phrase and identify what specific type of samas it is? And here's the answer. The expansion is kripaya ardram hridayam yasya sa, which translates so beautifully to she whose heart is moist with mercy. And because the compound refers to an external subject, Surabhi herself, it's a bahuvrihi samas.
Unpacking a samas compound like this completely changes the depth and color of the sentence, doesn't it?
Now let's wrap up our class with the final, beautiful shloka of the story, which summarizes the entire theme. Among all her offspring, a mother has equal affection, but toward a suffering son, that mother's heart becomes overflowing with compassion. As we've seen today, the grammar isn't just a set of arbitrary rules. It's the very heartbeat of the story itself. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer.